Okay, so now that we're all here, take your attention inside. Wow, it's so nice to be with you. The feeling is completely different. Take your attention inside below your belly button. Yes, and allow your attention to just drop like there's a funnel under your brain, and all the energy is coming into that funnel and down below your belly button so you can open there and allow all that energy to drop. And it will feel so different to not have your mind between your ears. But allow yourself to have this experience of actually being in your body. And allowing your mind to quiet. This is the secret to quieting your mind. Actually entering the space of your body. And the truth is that all of us have been traumatized into holding our attention between our ears. So you may feel that trauma begin to arise in you, and just allow it to drop. You can kind of shake your hands on the side if you need to, or hold them out a little bit, and just let the tension drop out of your body. Allow everything to drop off of you. And it'll feel like scum falling off your body. And then there is a feeling of expansion because what's between your ears is no longer running the show. And the truth is that life is full of distraction. So just allow yourselves to quiet, pull your energy down out of your ears. Find your center below your belly button. And now breathe into the space between the breaths below your belly button. Breathe into that space and allow it to expand. When you're ready, drop your attention all the way into the center of the earth, feeling yourself connect to the ground. Understanding that we are interdependent with our environment. Feeling into the ground space. When you're ready, gently come up to the tip of the tailbone at the bottom of your spine. And using your breath, feel yourself align with your cranial pulse. As you breathe inward, the tip of the tailbone goes slightly back. As you exhale, it moves slightly forward. It doesn't matter if you can connect to that or not, it's not important. But it is important to connect to the energy itself and focus your attention between the breaths. And that pulse will become available in its own time. Gently, when you're ready, take your attention to the energy center below your belly button. Feel it to soften. When you're ready, allow your attention to go to the solar plexus. It's at the bottom of the rib cage. And then feel back from there deep into your body and all the way to your spinal cord. Breathe into that space. Feel for the space between the breaths. When you're ready, gently take your attention to your heart center in the middle of your chest. Allow it to open in the space between the breaths. When you're ready, take your attention to your throat chakra in the middle of your neck. Feel for the space between the breaths. If you need to move to sit up straighter, feel free to do that. Sometimes the alignment requires we change our position. It won't disrupt the stillness for anyone. And if the energy begins to move you, that's called a kriya, and it's perfectly natural. It's your body clearing restrictions. And a way to release those restrictions is to completely allow. When you're ready, allow the energy to move upward through the roof of your mouth to the third eye. Behind and between the eyebrows, but back. Again, relax your head and feel for the space in between the breaths in the third eye. When you're ready, allow your attention to rise out the top of your head, feeling for the energy center above your head. And this isn't about leaving your body, it's about connecting to all parts of yourself. We can't really leave our body before death, but we can be very disconnected from the parts of ourselves. And the mantra in that case is all parts are welcome. And as we begin to reel in our fragmentation, that phrase becomes more and more meaningful. Our outer experience tends to cause us to fragment in our inner experience. Meditation is about experiencing yourself as a whole person, energetically, emotionally, mentally, and physically flexible. And now, in this quiet space, allow yourself to experience the natural movement of the energy through all the centers in whatever way becomes apparent to you. We don't ever want our guidance to be your limitation. When you're ready, holding to this state inside yourself, gently allow your eyes to open The state is more important than the vision. So whenever you begin to lose contact with the state, feel free to close your eyes and just feel. When you're ready, we're happy to take questions. It's such a joy to be in the same room. Happy anniversary. Thanks for spending it with us. Perfect place. Welcome to our home. Beautiful, beautiful home. Thank you. We see it as a gift from the guides. Say that again? We see it as a gift from the guides. Yeah. You sure? Through some very generous physical people. How may we serve today? Mm. Been a very interesting week. My son's mother-in-law died. Wow. And she had been in hospice. She's been in dialysis for many years, so it was not unexpected. But it brings up all your feelings about your own mortality, and it shines the light on all the family dysfunction. Who calls who notifies who, blah, 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 blah. And I was surprised at how upsetting all that was for me. I was not that close to her at all. You may want to use sleep for the people in the room. Thank you. So, do we mind if we paraphrase what you just said? So, her son's mother-in-law died in the last week, and the pattern of family dysfunction became obvious in the order in which people were notified about the event. And both the facing of one's own mortality that always comes up in the leaving of someone in our field. And it doesn't matter the closeness of the relationship. What matters is what it triggers in us. Because at our age, any experience of death in our field becomes very, very palpable because we're expanded and we're allowing ourselves to actually feel our connection to others through the other people that we're connected to. And so that these connections have power behind them is really a notification of the quality of our own expansion to be able to experience the change in the field in such a way that activates our own awareness about impending death, no matter how many years or months or how far it is away from us, because we can never know the time, but we become aware of the fact that we too will experience going from this state to one that's not participating in this world in the same way. We have no idea how dead people participate in this world, if at all, until we actually cross. And that unknown is very unsettling. And that it also activates all the habits of pattern recognition of the relationships that everybody we're connected to, that they have with each other and with us. And the dysfunction, is part of the pattern that's activated. And what it teaches us is how attached we are to that pattern in ourselves. The pattern will only change as the people in it change. And so what we learn over time is that other people may not be interested in changing themselves. And so those patterns are there in stone for them. When we've melted our stone and moved more into awareness of emotional flow, then we're not so touched or touched by that pattern that it's still there, and it's a tendency to think that it's ours. Not necessarily. What changes for us is our attachment to reacting to that pattern. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the pattern itself may never change. That's not up to you. All you can do is change your reactivity to it. Say, oh, there's that again. Hi, old friend. And you don't have to pick it up. This is what Rudy meant when he said, just because somebody hands you a shit sandwich doesn't mean you have to take a bite. That's what that means.
I was just surprised at my reaction. I guess I thought I had dissolved those patterns.
Well, the thing is that you recognize them as patterns. You recognize them as an attraction to an energetic response that will cripple you if you pick it up. And so, you may just out of habit pick it up for a few seconds and then like, oh no, I'm not going there again. That is not reacting. That is actually seeing a pattern and immediately rising above it and releasing our own reactivity to it. So the fact that it still has some intensity to it when it shows up, that just shows the other people are really, really attached to having you respond in that way. Yeah, like that's vampire feeding.
Oh.
Yeah, gotcha again. Yeah. But you're not there anymore. There's nobody on the other end for you. It's just not. Does that make sense?
And I'm grateful that I recognize that that's their dream. That's their.
Yes, that's their energetic field.
Right.
And you will always be connected to that. That's not your choice. I mean, you do have another choice, but it's not one worth making because it's not about love. Right?
It certainly doesn't bring joy.
Oh, no, not to anybody, but people choose their own reality. And that's just not the one you're choosing to activate anymore. And what other people do is not your responsibility. You can be aware of it and you can have compassion for their need to behave like that, but you don't have to buy into it. Not, you know, there's a 5-second habit that you enter that window. And then you're, yes,
Feel so much better.
yes, yes, because that can't survive in this field. It just isn't welcome. And the more you come back to this field, the less resonance that will have for you. It will always have some because you choose to remain in love and compassion for those people who you're connected to. It'll get a weaker and weaker signal from you in response over time.
I have to admit, I ran immediately to the Anasa temple.
Yes, 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 that's what we do. Because it works. It gets us back. It gets us back to ourselves. Good work.
Thank you.
So if you didn't hear that, she said she ran immediately to the Inasa temple and cleared herself of these negative energies that have been in her family for her entire life. And we all have them. This is not just a rare occurrence, and we all have them with the people that we are connected to and with their families, and it extends out. And we do not close down to these relationships. We open ourselves and relate with compassion when called upon to speak to these people, but we don't have to live in reaction, and we don't have to cultivate these relationships unless the people make it apparent to us that they are ready to change. And that means they come to us with love and respect, cultivating our opinions. If they don't do that, we can't foster that relationship because we don't have the energy for it.
Still a bye-bye.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that we don't send them love from the Inasa temple. And it doesn't mean that we don't work endlessly on their behalf in the Inasa temple. We don't shut down. That turns us to stone. And we are about dissolving our traumas, which are stone, and melting, turning it to lava that burns up all our karma and liberates us into an energetic field beyond our imagination. Good work.
This is so relevant for what's been happening this week for me. So I've noticed for a long time that negative reactions or thoughts are not productive of anything. they stop the flow of love. But I've been very harsh with them. When they come up, I would be like a very strict parent. No, no, don't do that. And this week has been about petting them, having compassion for them, because they are my little children in there that are, whining and moaning and complaining and whatever. And they rebel if I'm too harsh. And they say, oh, yes, I will, I'll react. Anyway, as you know, I have a particular setup of relationship that is, has been of benefit in that it has brought up everything strongly. I mean, I live a very peaceful life most of the time. And this was just like, what? I can't believe that this is happening. And so it's made me conscious of the places where I need work, where my devotion is flimsy. And so in that way, it's been a gift. The relationship is not better. I'll relate a little incident. Okay, last meeting, you said, never mind meeting with this person, our daughter, by the way. And so I just put that on the back burner and said, I'm not going to instigate anything. Turns out her partner, car broke down near us. We dealt with it with him on the hottest day. And she was coming to bring him to Woodland to pick up his car. She texted us, said, can I come over and we could talk? And I couldn't say no. And I had been doing enough work. The I Ching hexagram was resolution, being resolute. And it was so, I felt stable. I felt balanced. I felt calm. And I thought, okay, let's see. And turns out Wells was included in the discussion, which I really appreciated, because otherwise I'm like standing out there all by myself in the storm.
Well, yeah, he doesn't have the same patterns you do. So this is about a family issue. Let me catch everybody up.
Oh, yes, please.
This is about a family issue with a child who is now an adult who has children and tends to act from the anger side of the mind, we'll say. And so our last discussion was about whether or not to allow this person to dump all their negativity and to set up a stage for that. And we encouraged that experience not happen, that it would not do anything to resolve this situation. So what happened was the car of the person's partner broke down close to their house, and the person and the partner came.
No, just
the person. She came.
car.
Okay.
She came up.
She came to their house and called and requested to do that first. And so they had an encounter. But it wasn't just one of them, but the couple. And so when you have this conversation of intensity and your partner is able to be there to stabilize you and include it in the conversation, something completely different can happen because you can stabilize your energy. So tell us exactly what happened.
Okay, exactly. All right, it's,
We're so glad that you warned about pooping on the carpet.
well, let me finish. That's the denouement to my story.
Okay.
Go on.
So our last conversation did involve the fact that you don't need to open yourself to having a person come and poop on your carpet, is how we said it. So,
So
yeah.
we did open ourselves, and we're sitting out in the garden, which is good, not in the house where we're confined. And
Poop is acceptable on the earth. All the animals do it.
yeah, well, anyway, the conversation starts out well, and we're quiet because one of the things that I realized was that I don't need to defend or explain myself. She can say whatever she wants to say, which sounds incredibly distorted to me. Describing me and how I've hurt her and all this, and like really deep feelings. And I, like you said, like you were telling Constance, compassion for whatever she's going through. Anyway, we were calm, and it was proceeding as well as could be expected. And then all of a sudden, she gave us a piece of information that we didn't know before, and it would have been helpful to know. I won't go into the details because
It's not yours.
right. But
It's not yours to
we
share.
were surprised by what she said to us. Both of us, I especially said, I didn't know that, and that somehow triggered a rage in her. She got red-faced, her eyes were bloodshot. She was screaming at Wells, screaming at me. And then she said, I can't talk to you. And I made the mistake of saying, talk at us. I used the word at, and she went boom, and she left. Okay, so that night, after visiting the Anasa temple, right away, I'm doing my yoga stretches on the floor, on the carpet. I have a yoga carpet, and I'm in the middle of it, and all of a sudden, I smell this incredible smell of poop. And I finished my routine, and I went to Wells and I said, did you?
You want turkey? Stir fry for lunch?
And he said, no.
Not me.
Anyway, I was just, like, okay, and it dissipated right away. I mean, like in a couple minutes. The next morning, I looked at my.
Burritos for both of us because you ate yours half of it yesterday.
Oh.
Hold on, I don't know why my headphone isn't muting. Let me get my other one.
Uh-oh, what's this? It's kicking something.
It's something in Brenda's computer.
It seems okay, go ahead. Okay. So anyway, I pick up my phone and there was a text message. It was a really long text message from Kristen that she sent when I smelled the poop. she said in the middle of the night, well, late. And that's when I was doing my yoga. And it was the same time. Oh my God.
Goodness. Oh, wow.
And I said, oh, poop on the carpet. But I was on the carpet when it was said. And it was just hysterical because, talk about seeing the lightness in it. And what you were saying to Constance, I am slowly but surely taking my tentacles out of my threads, out of that relationship and just leaving the good parts, which are memories of her as the beauty that she is.
Yeah, and you keep sending her that.
And I keep sending her that. What I didn't remember when we were talking was to let stuff go out of my fingers, and then direct some good energy down on her. I forgot about that, but we handled it very well. He was so lovely afterwards. I sent her a text right after the conversation. Actually, she sent me something, and I responded with, we have a greater understanding, a deeper understanding of why you have anger. And he said to me, it was good that she got it out.
Yes.
And I said, well, go ahead.
She's never blasted rage
At you.
at me.
And
And I thought, oh, this is good.
Yes. Yes.
And I said, after I said, your dad thought that it was good for you to let it out. And I said, I hope so. Okay. And then later on, the dreadful, it was not just a long email, but it was, a long text, but it was an email too. And he didn't even want to read me the email, but it was okay. Because like you said, the stones are melting. I don't have to pick up any of that. It's not mine.
Mm-mm. It's not yours, and it's
And she-
somebody else's process.
Yeah, but
And
he
you,
keeps trying to put it on me.
well, of course.
Mother, you should be listening to your child, da 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 da, the whole, Jewish mother guilt trip. But anyway, I'm sorry if that offended anybody, but there is this kind of a Jewish mother in me, that, wants to be helping and fixing and making things better for her. And I can't. She's blocked I'm not supposed to do anything. I can text her. That's the only avenue she's left open. No calls, no phone calls, no letters, yeah, no writing. And so she can't see me anymore. She only has image of me that she carries around with her in her head, and she's been battling for years. But it isn't me.
No,
And I don't have to,
it's not your war.
it's not my war. So anyway, like your words just were so remarkably appropriate. And especially the pooping on the carpet. Oh my goodness. Ooh.
Well, it's interesting what that brings up. We don't know how much you heard, but it has to do with us being prophetic about poop on the carpet. Because as she was doing yoga, she had the smell on the carpet of poop. And at that same time, a text arrived that was very long and very full of accusations. And it was a poop on the carpet. And so what we'll say about that is that omens and synchronicity are things that show us that the guides are present in our lives and participating with us.
I felt that so much.
Yes. Yeah. And this is how they communicate. They communicate through plant experiences, they communicate through smells, sensations, and synchronicity is what makes us aware that this is a communication of the guides in our lives. And that
I have an inkling that there's so much more of that to be receptive to.
absolutely. And the more space of non-reactivity that we allow in our lives, the more we are participating actively in the energy that we share with the entire multiverse. And as we expand within ourselves, remarkable experiences happen that are beyond imagination, really. You know, we were gone last week at an astrology conference, and we'll just tell you briefly a little bit of some of Rebecca's experiences. But she decided not to take a computer or even paper and pencil or pen to any of these lectures, which were fascinating lectures on astrology. But everything, she knew everything would be sent with videos of the entire conference would be available within a week after the conference. And so she'll be able to go through them at her leisure. And really take in the information. But she understood that this was about creating relationship and availability with other people who love astrology uh, in their own way, each of them. And so there were these remarkable energetic connections that happened that we won't speak about too much because they aren't really relevant to you, but they you know, like one woman that she had never had any interaction with before, who gave a whole day actually, of 5 hours of beautiful lecture, came up to her later and said, "I'm supposed to hug you, and you're supposed to know me, and that person has my information. Just go over and ask them for it." And that was like totally unexpected. You know, I was sitting there thinking, I wonder how I can connect with this person. And she just walked up and hugged me and said, "I'm supposed to know you." And so that was the answer to that. And then there was another one. I only asked one question through the entire presentation, and this wonderful young man was speaking about all the nakshatras. And at the end of each nakshatra, he would say, "If you have planets, you know, you want to ask me about in these nakshatras, I'll interpret your chart for you." And so he got to Rohini, and I have Jupiter and Venus in Rohini. And so I raised my hand. I have Jupiter and Venus in Rohini. And he gave the clearest answer I have ever heard, because my experience of that Jupiter Venus, I mean, everybody sees it and goes, "Wow, you're so lucky." And he said, "Oh," he said, "there is a problem here." And I was like, "Yes." And he explained to me exactly what the problem is, which I knew and I have experienced. You know, I had kind of figured it out, but I didn't figure out the emotional experience until he put it together. You know, the Venus is very much stronger than the Jupiter, and the Jupiter is very unhappy being overruled by the planet which rules the demons, because Jupiter is the ruler of the gods. And so when you put them together, they're like oil and water, oil and vinegar. You know, they don't do so well. And even though they only do good, but it's like a it can create some problems in the field. That's all that require work to have those energies, getting those energies to go in the same direction toward expansion. And of course, I've been dealing with it my whole life because that's been my life, is really sorting out those relationships. And they're complicated within me, and there is nobody who has a perfect chart. Everybody has difficulty. And one of the most important things was this woman who hugged me when she was lecturing. She said, "Our natal chart is the prison we were born into. Let's be honest about it." And that was so freeing, because it's really the truth. It's the prison that we were born into that we have the capacity to free ourselves from by understanding what in us doesn't serve and learning to rise above it. And we all know that that is a life's work.
Yeah.
And what greater purpose could we have in our lives than to transcend the prison we were born into?
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
That's it. That's it.
I call it the nut to crack. Everybody has a nut to crack.
Well, yeah, it's the stones in us we have to melt. The walls we have to break through.
Is that the term I've heard say jumping your chart, to jump the chart? Is that what it means?
Well, jumping the chart implies that it's one action that frees you. And it's not that simple.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's like rocketing to a new place. But the effort, we all know that the personal work that's required to be done to become whole is so multifaceted and multidimensional within us that ultimately, yes, we are jumping the chart. And there is, there are at least 24 charts available that are derivations from the time of our birth that give us indications of how, in Vedic astrology, these are all very well articulated, and they give us indications of where the problems are and how to solve them, because how to solve them is ultimately, well, from an astrological perspective, what you do is you say the mantras long enough and with great enough intensity, because it's intensity that really forges these new connections in ourselves to the higher forces that can support us in our endeavor. And so in saying these mantras and forming the connections, we are actively healing those planetary difficulties. And we're coming to the understanding that this is why the guides really, for 5 years hammered, you need to study astrology. And yes, mastery does take 20 years, but that doesn't mean it's not worth doing. And yes, all the other things that I did were very important too, because there are levels of mastery in yourself that you're constantly getting feedback from the world about what this level of mastery brings you. And then that takes you to another field in which you go for mastery, which takes you to another field in which you go for mastery. For most people, they don't have as many careers as Rebecca. It's not about mastery in the external world ever. It's about inner mastery. But for Rebecca, there's a lot of, feedback from the world that has led to other things. most people, that's not how it happens. You can do all the work inside. You don't have to externalize. It's just that in those experiences, it makes it more graphic for people how it happens. But for most people, it happens all inside, and that's the quick way. This is the long way. So don't feel that because you haven't had 3 or 4 careers, there's no potential for growth. No, 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 no. It's no, that's not what's required. It's the inner work. It's the inner devotion that does all the work. It's not the outer accomplishment that means anything at all. I can tell you.
Oh, good, I feel like I haven't done anything.
No, you are absolutely spot on in the work you've done. You're spot on. And don't ever go to any feeling of less than anyone else because it has nothing to do with worldly accomplishment. You can trust me about that.
But what your experiences gave you or participated in giving you the ability to communicate as well as you do.
Well, the truth is for me that I came from such a profoundly dysfunctional place that this is what my path has been. And we all act from our dysfunction until we don't have to anymore. And for Rebecca, me, that involved a lot of externalizing, things to understand that the answers weren't there. That's what all that was about. It's not anything about what's required for anybody else. We each have a very specific trajectory to our inner growth that as we feel into ourselves and ask and ask and ask for the way Rebecca asks is for union with that divinity, to be nothing but that pure divinity. And we're not saying that that's the way it happens for everybody or that that's the only thing to hold for yourself. That's sort of the mantra that comes from being born in the very last nakshatra and the very last bit of the horoscope. That is where my life intention came from. That's my ascendant. That's the life intention that comes with that. And fulfilling that is what my psyche is geared to. For each of us, it's different. And that wish for you will fulfill your chart and allow you to jump the chart. Then it doesn't matter what the wish actually activates. I'm getting beyond my capacity for language, which, we're at the time for meditation. Is everybody okay with me not trying to finish that conversation? Because I just ran out of the language, but we each have our own unique path. That's really the message. And to judge ourselves next to anybody else's path is doing us and them great harm, because you're creating a barrier. Like, I'm less than. And it's not about worthiness. And it's not about any kind of accomplishment, really, except your own alignment with source energy. This is what spiritual practice is. So we'll complete it in that way. Does that make sense? Okay, let's go back into sacred space. Not that we ever left it, but. Mm. So we'd like to close this meditation with gratitude, feeling into the gratitude within ourselves for being given the grace to experience our own personal divinity. We don't worship Anasa. We allow them to help us with their field of information, which is really love. We worship that within ourselves into wholeness. Let's eat. Let's have fun.